Okay, let's dive right into an explainer that starts with a single deceptive relationship and then just completely explodes into an alleged international conspiracy. Today, we're breaking down a highly complex and honestly deeply disturbing case based on a detailed report from CrimeTune. We're talking about a massive scandal that allegedly unfolded right inside a multinational corporate office in Nashik between 2022 and 2026. We've got a ton of ground to cover, so we're going to stick strictly to the data, the timelines, and the police reports to map out exactly how this happened. Let's get into it. So to really understand the massive scale of the police investigation that eventually went down, we actually have to zoom way in, start at the micro level with just one 23-year-old girl. According to our source material, back in January 2022, this young woman was just finishing up her computer application studies. She runs into an old acquaintance, a guy named Danish Sheikh. Danish tells her, hey, I'm working at this major multinational BPO, basically a huge corporate processing center in Nashik, and he offers to help her get a job there. Now, for a fresher, getting a direct reference into a multinational, that feels like winning the lottery, right? So she gets the job. She steps onto the very first rung of her career ladder, right alongside nearly 150 other young recruits, mostly between the ages of 18 and 25. And this is exactly what illustrates the terrifying contrast at the heart of this case. See, the victim believed she was experiencing this completely normal, supportive office culture. Having coffee in the canteen, networking with Danish, meeting a circle of friends, people like Tausif Akhtar and Nida Khan. She thought she'd found some really great mentors. But beneath that glossy illusion, the alleged reality was a carefully orchestrated front for severe psychological abuse. What looked like casual, everyday networking, it was allegedly the calculated selection of a target. Let's trace this terrifying 4-year ordeal on the timeline here. It all begins with that seemingly innocent job offer in January 2022. But by July of that same year, the trap is allegedly sprung. It happens at an isolated hilly area called Kondo Batekri. The source states Danish called her out there and suddenly forced himself on her, pressuring her for a physical relationship. And when she resisted, he allegedly played this classic emotional manipulation card, claiming he was just doing it because he loved her and he wanted to marry her. He used that false promise of marriage to continually exploit her, and this nightmare dragged on for literally years until February 2026. That's when the victim gets a message from a totally unknown woman named Mahreen. And the message? Mahreen reveals she's Danish's wife and the mother of his 2 children. Danish had been married the entire time. Well, here's the thing. This wasn't just Danish acting on his own. Not at all. Police FIRs actually break down a highly structured syndicate with specific alleged roles. So once Tausif Akhtar found out about Danish and the victim, he allegedly stepped in as the blackmailer. Tausif threatened to expose the victim's relationship to her family unless she submitted to him as well. Then you have Nida Khan, who's identified as the brainwasher. The source alleges she would approach these terrified, broken girls, acting like a sympathetic friend, slowly trying to convince them that the only way they could ever be safe was to adopt Islamic practices. And finally, individuals like Raza Maiman allegedly acted as the enforcers, just straight up intimidating the new recruits into staying totally silent. So the really crucial point to take away here is that this wasn't random harassment. It was reported as a highly calculated psychological strategy. The syndicate specifically targeted 18 to 25-year-old female recruits who were, naturally, feeling a bit insecure about their brand new careers. The group would allegedly initiate these casual little debates that would then quickly escalate into deeply offensive slurs against Hindu deities. The source material notes they'd make highly derogatory comments about figures like Lord Shiva and Draupadi. And the goal wasn't just to be offensive, right? It was an intentional, psychological attack meant to instill shame, break down the victim's sense of identity and faith, and ultimately make them easier to control. Okay, let's look at how the police finally broke this wide open, because it builds into a truly incredible law enforcement response. Fast forward to February 2026. A local political worker tips off the Nashik City Police about forced conversions happening at the BPO. The police discreetly visit the first victim's parents, who are so terrified by this point that they've actually stopped their daughter from going to work. But obviously, the police can't just go raid a massive multinational corporation without rock-solid evidence. So they execute one of the largest corporate undercover operations in Indian history. They take 6 of their absolute most capable female constables, give them special training, and literally plant them securely inside the BPO, disguised as housekeeping staff. 40. That's the number of straight days these undercover officers operated inside that corporate office. While they were sweeping floors and cleaning desks, they were constantly observing. According to the source, these officers allegedly witnessed the gang actively targeting girls, touching them inappropriately in pantries and meeting rooms, making obscene remarks, and actively pushing these religious conversions. Every single evening after their shift, these undercover constables would report back to their senior officers, just slowly, methodically building an airtight case. Now, once the police had the hard evidence, they needed the victims to actually testify. So the undercover female officers started secretly meeting with the most frightened victims outside the office in safe locations. They counseled them, they guaranteed their absolute safety, and the result? An incredible 9 FIRs, that's 9 formal police complaints, were filed in just 9 days. It completely broke years of silence. Starting on March 26, 2026, when that first 23-year-old victim came forward, the floodgates just opened. 7 women and 1 man formally detailed their horrific experiences to the authorities. And this immediate wave of evidence resulted in 7 sweeping arrests by a newly formed 12-member Special Investigation Team, or SIT, led by ACP Sandeep Midke. Danish Sheikh, Tasif Akhtar, Raza Maiman, and several other senior employees and team leaders were taken into custody in a single, lightning-fast streak. When we look objectively at the specific disturbing allegations documented in these FIRs, the sheer variety and cruelty of the alleged harassment becomes undeniable. I mean, it wasn't just closed-door blackmail. The reports state that on Gudi Padwa in March 2026, a victim's sari was openly pulled right there on the office floor. They also allegedly targeted a male employee who was a devotee of Ramdas Swami. The source says they overloaded him with work to break him mentally, forced him to wear a skullcap and pray on Eid in 2023, and then actually posted photos of it in the official office WhatsApp group to humiliate him. And honestly, most chillingly, when this male employee resisted, Tausif allegedly mocked the man's wife, who was dealing with medical infertility, and told the employee to send his wife to him if he wanted a child. Just incredibly vile stuff. Now, hearing all of this, you're probably wondering, how on earth did a multinational company not notice this going on for years? Which brings us to the absolute, shocking failure of the POSH Committee. If you don't know, POSH stands for the Prevention of Sexual Harassment. It's this internal corporate mechanism legally mandated to protect employees. And the crazy thing is, the victims actually did try to use it. They sent multiple emails and written complaints directly to this committee. But instead of immediate action and escalation to the head office like you'd expect, the system was allegedly hollowed out from the inside. The man responsible for reviewing these complaints was the POSH operations manager, Ashwin Shinani. And according to the police investigation, Ashwin intentionally suppressed dozens of these written complaints and emails, ensuring they never even reached the Mumbai head office. The very man hired to protect these young employees was allegedly acting as their biggest roadblock. Because of this deliberate suppression, the SIT arrested Ashwin Chainani right along with the other syndicate members. And listen, this is a massive takeaway for the corporate world. It sets a historic precedent in Indian corporate history. Ignoring compliance and suppressing victim complaints is no longer just a fireable HR offense. It makes you complicit, and it can literally land you behind bars as an accessory to the crimes. Following those arrests, the SIT dug deep into the electronic gadgets of the accused, and recovering that digital data expanded the scope of the investigation massively. The police seized over 40 distinct pieces of CCTV footage from the company and recovered more than 78 highly suspicious encrypted communications and call records. But just as the net was closing in, the alleged mastermind of the psychological brainwashing, Nida Khan, vanishes into thin air. The moment she was officially suspended by management on April 9, 2026, she turned off her phone and fled. The police immediately declared her an absconder and launched a massive manhunt across Mumbai and Thane. Now, her defense lawyers did file for anticipatory bail, basically arguing she was being falsely framed. They claimed she was just a lowly telecaller with zero power and stated she was 7 to 8 weeks pregnant. However, given the extreme severity of the allegations, the Nashik Sessions Court completely denied her bail. Okay, let's zoom back out and look at how this funnels to the macro level. Those encrypted chats we looked at a second ago, they allegedly revealed a Malaysia link. Police sources indicated the syndicate was actually being guided by a radical preacher based in Malaysia. On top of that, a contract worker alleged the group received heavy foreign funding to carry out these conversions. So suddenly, we're no longer just talking about corporate harassment, aren't we? We're talking about national security. Because of this, top national agencies, we're talking the National Investigation Agency, the State Intelligence Department, and the Anti-Terrorism Squad, they all joined the investigation. And for safety, the Nashik BPO was completely shut down and all employees were moved strictly to remote work. Naturally, the political fallout from this has been immense, and we're reporting the statements exactly as provided in our source data here. As noted in these reports, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis stated publicly that the state government is deeply investigating if this represents a larger, organized model of corporate jihad, and he vowed to uproot the network entirely if these specific allegations are proven true in court. Which leaves us with this final, absolutely vital question to consider. We've walked through the timelines, the alleged tactics, and the catastrophic failure of corporate safeguards. Between 2022 and 2026, young professionals walked into what they thought was a stepping stone to a bright future, only to allegedly face unimaginable exploitation. If a modern, glossy, multinational corporate environment can be hollowed out and exploited to this scale, right under our noses, how truly secure are the workplaces we walk into every single day? It's a pretty chilling thought to leave you with, and it proves that policies on paper mean absolutely nothing without strict, honest enforcement on the ground. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredibly complex explainer today. Keep asking questions and always keep looking beneath the surface.